In this lesson, we're going to use character formatting to format an annual report page. If you'd like to follow along, go into the File menu to Open, and in the Sample Files folder, scroll down to 0607 Format an Annual Report Page, and just click Open. Let me zoom in a little bit on this page. I'm going to go to my zoom tool or hit my Z key to get there very quickly and just zoom in to the width of the page. And right away I see a problem. Instead of using typographer's quotes, this was typed using inch signs, not correct typography. So let me just get an insert point here, and I'm going to use Find Change to change these to the correct typographer's quotes. I'm going to go under Edit to Find Change, and in the text section, I'm going to use a pre-existing query, which is called Straight Double to Typographer's Quotes, and it enters some code. I'm going to hit Find to make sure that it's working, and it does select the first inch sign, so I know it found it. Let me hit Change, and it not only changed it to a typographer's quote, it used the correct one. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to hit Find Next, and it finds the next inch mark. Let me hit Change, and you can see that the quotes at the beginning and the end of the quote are different. The one at the beginning is upside down and facing inward. The one at the end is facing inward as well and is right side up. Let me just hit Change All now to complete my search and make all of the rest of the changes. Now I can see that there's a register mark next to Harry's, and maybe I want to make it smaller because it's in a headline. Maybe it's a little bit too big. Well, let me make it a little bit smaller, and now in the character panel, use Baseline Shift to raise that selected register mark back up to where it started before I made it smaller. Maybe also I want to make my headline italic. Right now it's bold. I actually want to make it bold italic. Let's try that. I'm going to go to the pop-up in the character settings of the control panel in the style setting area and just go to italic. Well, I didn't really want italic. I actually wanted it to be bold italic. So let's do that. Well, I think for Harry's annual report, that typeface might be just a little bit too fancy. So let me just go back to regular bold and try something else. Like, how about I use skew or false italic? Down the bottom of the character panel, I'm going to click the up arrow next to skew, and you can see that it's just slanting the type over slightly, which is way less fancy than the actual italic. So it may be more acceptable for my fruit and vegetable wholesaler. Why don't we change the kerning of our headline from metrics to optical? I may want to change that for everything except for the numbers and columns, because if I'm not using metrics, while the spacing of the numbers will be absolutely beautiful, they will not line up perfectly in columns the way these do. So why don't we leave that the way it is? Why don't we also make the word lettuce bold? So I'm going to go to the style pop-up and choose bold, or I could have just typed a B and bold would have come up automatically. Why don't we go back up to our headline for just a second and select it. Normally, if I wanted to make this small caps, I might go under the options menu to open type, because it is open type, and choose all small caps. The only problem is for this particular typeface, it's in brackets, which means that does not exist in this particular open type typefaces. So I'd have to do it a different way. How about I do the large and small caps up here in the control panel under the character formatting controls, and now I have large and small caps. Now let's scroll down just a little bit. I want to be able to see my total down the bottom of my first section with dollar amounts. We're going to do a grand total kind of look for each one of our grand totals. So what I'm going to do is apply in the control panel a strike through and also an underline. And now that's not exactly what I want. I'm going to have to do a custom underline and a custom strike through. So to get to those options or alternatives, I'm going to option click on a Mac, alt click on a PC. Why don't we change the settings for our underline to make it look like a grand total kind of style? So the weight isn't heavy enough. How about if I just click down on the little pop-up next to weight and choose 4 points? Well, that's heavier for sure. And for the type of stroke, I'm going to click down on the solid stroke and choose instead thin. And you can see now it's a thin stroke, but it's still sitting on that baseline. I have to offset it. And because it's an underline, it's under the type, to move it further under the baseline, I have to click my up arrow. So it's offsetting it further down using positive numbers. Let me click OK. And I have to do the same thing for the strike through. So I'm going to option alt click on my strike through button to get to those settings. Once again, for the weight, I'm going to choose 4 points. And for the type of stroke, I'm going to choose that thin, just like the other one I chose for the underlines. And I'm going to offset it further up by clicking the up arrow. And when it's high enough above my type that it looks equal to the underline, the same space away, I'm just going to click OK. The first thing I'm going to do after setting up such complex character formatting, I'm going to go to my Character Styles panel and just go under the Options menu to New Character Style. Make sure that Apply Style to Selection is checked and also Preview. And I'm going to name the style Total and click OK. So now that it's a character style, let me scroll a little bit further down and click my Total Character Style for the next total. And you can see how fast that is. I didn't have to think about what the settings were in the last time I used this. I just click on it, very fast and totally consistent. And as we get to styles, you're going to see that there are even more benefits to using styles. One last thing I wanted to do, I'm going to scroll back up to the subhead that says lettuce and just select it. And I'm going to go back to my character panel. And you can see there's nothing in the tracking field for that selected type. That means there's mixed tracking. I'm going to click in that field and just type a 0 and hit enter or return to apply it. And the mixed formatting went away. We're going to begin to talk about paragraph formatting in the next lesson.